Hello and welcome to Almost 30 Podcast.
Hello, everybody. It's Lindsey and Krista. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
So glad you're here.
We are over 30. We are thriving.
Truly thriving.
Life gets better and better as you get older. And we are a podcast, Spirituality and Wellness. We've been around since 2016. Before it was cool. We have over 700 episodes. We have a thriving community of amazing people. We just turned in our book, which is coming out next year. And we are so glad that you chose Almost 30 to listen to today.
How are you feeling post-book writing?
Anxious.
Yeah.
I don't feel good, to be honest. I feel like when I read the book all the way through, when we were doing the final edits, I was blown away at how good it was. I was so grateful because in the book writing process, when you're writing just in pieces and then editing and going through, and then you had your parts and then we had, to make it cohesive, it was really good. But when I read it all together, I was like, oh, this is really
powerful.
good. It made me happy. But now there's the part about, okay, the cover and promotion and all of that. And the book industry is such a interesting world that I feel pressure. Mm-hmm. And we got such a we love our publisher. It was such a great experience. I felt when we got our deal, I was bawling. Like that was one of the best moments in our career easily because of just what a great deal it was. And so now I'm like, oh my God, I really want to do well.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's hit me yet. So I think once we're in the mode of like planning, starting to promote, et cetera, I think anytime you create something that came so deeply from within you, which we did.
Yeah.
And anytime we've spent time kind of in our little cocoon creating, this is for anyone out there that's creating anything, I think the act of putting it out into the world is the most confronting part of the process. Yeah. And I think we can just kind of see that as like a normal part of the process.
Yeah.
There's going to be, and we're always so blown away by our community, the audience, just in how they support. And I think that's the main piece. I think what we're nervous about is like, okay, we want to do the publisher justice. Mm-hmm. We want to will our friends in the industry like the book?
Yeah.
And
it's like, will people show up?
Will people show up? Will they support us in our getting the message and word out there about the book? I think that's kind of an interesting piece, which I know the right people will.
I feel like this I felt like this with my wedding.
Oh.
It was like you really see who shows up and then you really see who doesn't.
Yeah.
It was like very clear of how my relationships were. And it didn't define a lot of the people in my life, but you really are like, oh, this is someone that's going to go out of their way, that's going to be supportive, going to do all those things. And then you see who's like not.
Yeah.
And so in this, it's going to be one of those processes too, where you're like, oh man, this person really didn't show up, or this person really did, or whatever. And it's also taking myself out of the equation. I think when we create something like art or whatever it is that we do, my work is often to not attach that to people liking me.
Yeah.
But It's like, how good is what you created? Like if you created something that's worthwhile and worthy and helpful, then it's going to work for people. And it doesn't have anything to do with people liking you.
Yes. And I think what's interesting about and this is the last thing about the book, but what's interesting about the book industry is this emphasis on like the launch and like the pre-orders and everything, which I understand is important. And let me just tell you, this book is going to live on like for each, class, quote unquote, of almost 30ers coming in, and will hopefully, the way we wrote it, be the book that people gift to the person in that period in their life. Therapists will hopefully recommend this to people. So yes, the promotion, the launch is going to be something we're so focused on. And also, hopefully it has a life of its own beyond that.
Hopefully it's just good, where it's like people like it because it's good.
Heck yeah.
Not because it's anything else.
Heck yeah.
So Lindsey and I are We like redid the studio. We're like kind of in a new vibe. This is two girls when we need to record. So normally we have people come, they'll set up, but today we have been
Just
setting up,
us
moving things around, turning on and off lights, like
for
moving
an hour.
plants for over an hour.
Yep.
Just like, oh, this kind of needs a little bit more something like
Yep.
procrastination, but like design.
But design. Well, because I feel like we haven't really set up our own thing in a while,
I agree.
you know, and we've too many times done this ourselves in the early years of almost 30 and like fucked it up.
I know.
And then we would go back and be like, oh my God, it's not even in focus. We can't use this episode. What is happening? So I think taking the time is worth it, but check us out on YouTube.
Looks good.
Did we do a good job?
Looks good. You know what's funny is our old studio was in Architectural Digest.
I know.
That's so wild. And Forbes and our old studio. So we did our old studio with Danny of Daisy Designs, and it was sick. It was just very pink, and we kind of needed a zhuzh. But yeah, we had a moment with that where we really did it up
Yep. It was beautiful.
in the space. I know it was amazing.
The thing with design in general, whether it's like clothing, your environment, whatever, it's like you kind of get sick of it very
Oh,
fast.
100%. Everything. Girl, I did yoga this morning. I needed it. And my dude at my yoga did this move that honestly,
On you or?
yes,
Uh-huh.
he's hands-on.
Love hands-on.
Love hands-on. It's the only
That's what I'm
action.
paying
It's
for.
literally the only action that I'm getting. So every time he touches me, I like metabolize it as
Sex.
yes. I'm like, this is the divine masculine holding me.
Penetrating my aura.
Literally. So today he did something where he was pushing his knees in my lower back. My lower back has been killing me for months. And then held on to like because we were in butterfly, and then pulled back my inner thigh. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
girl, the way
You're in
that-
butterfly. So he's holding.
so he's pushing his knees in my back
And then pulling
grabbing
back your
yes,
knees.
and then pulling back my knees.
Ooh. And then are you arching your back or no?
No, not really, because you don't want to like
Hyperextend that.
yeah, you don't want to
Okay.
hyperextend, but you are like being
Open.
pulled back a little bit. And so it's
Okay.
getting your inner thighs in like that groin area, which holds so much
Ooh.
tension. And then your lower back, it's like stretching. Girl, I was like, this man just did me a $300 service.
There was a time when I was like, I really want to date someone who like is a body worker.
Oh, I mean, 100%.
You know, like Sean has great hands, but doesn't know the anatomy of the body in
Totally.
terms of like, ooh, when you pull that and stretch this.
I think he was watching me in class and noticed how I was doing and knew that my back was tight.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I think he knows that I was in pain in this way and like adjusted me for that reason.
Is there vibes or no?
No.
Okay.
Like it's almost like I wish.
But do you feel vibes? No, meaning like, is he like cool?
He's good
cute?
looking and cool, but like there's no vibes. Like
Yeah.
it's just
Totally.
is what it is. And it's just a deep appreciation. It's almost like just a deep appreciation for the hands and the strength and the confidence and
Totally.
you know what I mean? Like it's just it's just next level. Some hands-on adjustments are just next level.
I think that's what I look forward to in yoga the most. When they don't do hands-on adjustments, I'm like, why am I here?
I also too, I'm like, put on some essential oils, rub the back of my neck, put some on my third eye,
Yeah.
give my little shoulders a rub.
Yeah.
Like I love that.
completely agree.
Touch.
It should be half yoga, half massage.
Yeah,
Therapy.
exactly. We should be taking a turn to get massage. And there's this chick that goes every time I go. She goes 7 days a week. She's just
I love
she's
women
the
who
mayor of my yoga, and I just avoid her at all costs. It's 7 a.m. and I'm literally like, dude, I know what I'm not going to say her name, but I'm like, Nancy, just stop talking to me.
Yeah, literally.
She'll be like, I was wearing a sweatshirt the other day, a seed sweatshirt, and it says bacteria on it for seed, which is a probiotic. So it's talking about bacteria. She's like, bacteria? What is that about?
Is she
I'm like-
older or younger?
Older. I'm like, Nancy, but not like that much older, but I'm like, Nancy, it's 7 a.m., please.
Yeah.
Like she'll just be talking to everyone, running around, like cannot have anybody in the room like not know who she is.
I've always been fascinated by people who really become so latched on to especially like fitness brands, fitness
Oh my God,
trends.
that's a good one.
I mean, like working at Soul Cycle, I mean, there was one woman in particular who would take 4 classes in a row.
I know who you're talking
and
about.
we had to like have an official talk with her because it's like illegal.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, it's
And there
against
was
like
trouble at home.
health code. yeah. She was absolutely she had some traumatic events in her life and like was absolutely riding to escape. And it was,
The bike's going nowhere, babe.
I mean, she would get up, she would be on the same bike for those 4 classes. It would be a moat around her bike of sweat. And we just had to like pretend like there wasn't something wrong front and center. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. I mean,
Bless her heart. But yeah, we had to have a talk with her, but she didn't listen. Like for a time period, we like limited the amount of classes. And then she was like, I need this. Like, this is wrong. Like, I should be able to do this. I'm paying for this. Yeah, it was crazy. So I've seen that a lot where people become obsessed with the instructors, become obsessed with the workout. They get addicted. But like, if you're doing the same workout 7 days in a row, multiple times a day, the body don't like that.
especially Soul Cycle.
Oh, especially
That
Soul
is
Cycle.
not good for the body.
I think
do
the
that
only
that
thing
many
is like
times.
yoga and walking could be good.
I know.
every
I was
day.
like, I'm down with her to do yoga 7 days.
Yeah.
It's just that psychic feeling where every time we're both in, she's like, Krista's the only one that like is not like a member of my community here.
Totally.
Because I just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I
like
don't
you're
want to
not
give
like,
the satisfaction of being in the. I don't want to talk at that time. This is my
yeah.
time. I talk all day.
Yeah, that's too
Many
early.
people I talk.
That's too early.
Yeah, too early.
I just like nod like a monk. I'm like,
I do. I like close my eyes. Like anytime she comes in, I close my eyes and like deeply stretching.
you don't see me, do you?
No, honestly, and I like ignore or I'll like be in some sort of position because at this point it's just.
Also, like you're not supposed to talk when you go into the yoga
I
room.
agree. It's just 7. I appreciate what she's doing for the community there. She's doing great community building, but I just don't want to be a part of it.
Sure.
Just want to do my thing at yoga, to be honest.
All right. Well, today on the podcast, we have Emily Fletcher back on the pod. We had her on a couple years ago.
Yeah, I
few
remember in
years
the
ago.
studio, we talked a lot about meditation and we talked about meditation and manifestation. There's actually really, really good quotes from that episode. I think we have one in our book, speaking of the book.
Yes,
about,
we do.
How important and impactful is meditation for manifestation.
Yeah. Yeah. She, especially this time around, I was like,
She's changed a lot.
whoo, so
cool
much
way.
transformation on her end. And you can really feel it in this conversation. So not only has her professional work kind of evolved within Ziva and like what they are offering, but personally, and she kind of brings us into her world now and the practices that she's really committed to in her partnership, individually, as a mom, and just as like a spiritual seeker, like really what that looks
Yeah.
like, and within her community of women that she has created. So in this conversation, we definitely obviously revisit meditation and kind of like her.
But don't glaze over, guys. It's
don't-
not just about meditation.
No, it's not just about
Everyone's
meditation.
like, I tried, but it's hard.
Totally. But I think she really has been a gateway for so many people. She
Yeah.
worked with a lot of corporate companies. So kind of that like introduction to meditation has been like her sweet spot. But now Ziva has expanded into what she calls the sacred secret. So she's really walking people through how to fully feel and embody their emotional experience so that things like meditation and other modalities can actually work.
Yeah.
So if we're like completely blocked with anger or resentment or fear or grief, and we're not able to fully feel it, and she has different ways in which she's walking people through fully feeling, whether it is movement, whether it is like sacred rage, etc. We're not able to fully like be in the experience of these modalities. So we talk about the sacred secret. We talk about sacred sexuality, which was really interesting. I was probably blushing a little bit when we were having this conversation.
No, I blush. That's what's wrong with me.
Well,
It's my Catholic upbringing.
yeah. And I think, especially with Emily, it's like she's a mom. I think her son is like 11 or so.
That sounds right.
And so she's kind of like, your son is like kind of a young little man, and like you've been given this opportunity, you know, post-divorce, being with a new partner, being able to travel a lot more. like it's almost like her own rebirth. So this conversation is like a very much a representation of kind of her rebirth and like what that actually means. It looks like as a woman who's lived many lives. She was a performer, you know, her early days with Ziva, and now it just reminded me like we do live many lives in this life. You could be in your 30s and feel like, fuck, I haven't done this or I
Yeah.
haven't accomplished this. And it's like, life is long.
Yeah.
Doesn't all need to happen
Yeah.
right now.
And we need women to like show the way with that kind of stuff.
Yes.
You know what I mean? To kind of lead in that conversation around, you know, sacred sexuality and stuff. But yeah, it always will never make me not blush.
We also talk about psychedelics
Cool.
because she has been in pretty consistent ceremony. She's also leading people through ceremonies
Cool.
with MDMA, ketamine, different plant medicines. So that was really fascinating. And she's very passionate about doing this in the proper way. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people have access to plant medicine now, and the facilitation isn't
At
respecting
all.
the plant, isn't respecting the elders. We talk about the importance of elders,
Yep.
and
Yeah,
so I
that's
thought
a
that was a
whole
good
can
reminder.
of worms. That's like, I would knock on wood, but I don't think I'd ever do plant medicine work. So I don't think I'd ever do medicine work with people.
Yeah,
That
like
is
leading it.
so, it already took me 15 years to feel like I could hold people as a coach from a coaching capacity.
Yeah.
And I have so much under my belt. And to be like, to do that is so, feels so tender.
So tender. It's such a responsibility.
Such a responsibility.
I had a friend who kind of vets different experiences.
Yeah.
And
I know her.
yeah, she went to a plant medicine ceremony that her friends were leading. So she's like, I want to see if this is something that I would want to recommend to people through my service. She went and like she was mortified, and she had to have a sit down conversation with them that was like, this is irresponsible. This is not right. This is like actually potentially detrimental and dangerous to the people
Yes.
coming to this ceremony. So yeah, we just need people out there that are advocating
Yeah.
for like the spirit of what this is
Yep.
too.
Yep. I mean, they say set and setting is so important with any type of medicine. So if the set or like the situation you're in is not 100 out of 100, that's a no.
Yeah.
The setting is not 100 out of 100, that's a no. So just making sure. And I would even say I've done ceremony before for the first time when I didn't really understand that was not set or setting. I mean, girl, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Done so much MDMA at like fucking wherever the frick. And it just is, it's huge, but I'm grateful that she's talking about that because I think it's really important because it's becoming a deeper conversation, especially I'm seeing psilocybin come out a lot too. It's being more normalized, and Axis Mundi is this great brand that does education on microdosing. That's good. But yeah.
Yeah. We also talk about manifestation, embodied manifestation. So yeah, this conversation was one that I felt you all will really love and just hits on so much. So Emily Fletcher, you can find her on Instagram at Emily Fletcher, and her podcast is Why Isn't Everyone Doing This? It's a newer podcast, but it's really caught some hype because she's introducing kind of the modalities, the experiences, the people, the healers that she feels like the world and or the collective at large should be trying, engaging in. You know, it's one of those people that are like very much passionate about vetting and then sharing
Love it.
with their community. So
we'll have the first episode with her in our show notes on meditation and manifestation. Thanks for joining us, Emily. Love ya. Really appreciate it. And for more on Almost 30, go to almost30.com. We have all of our partners. We have so many codes for you guys. All my friends say that they always just type in Almost 30 on any website to get a code. And then we have Almost 30 podcast on Instagram and TikTok, and our morning microdose, which is our clips channel. Would love to have you guys join that. Thank you for subscribing, rating, and reviewing. We love you so much, and we'll see you on the other side.
later. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Therapy. Back to school. What do they have to do with each other? Well, I don't know if you remember that feeling like when you would go back to school. It's kind of that readiness to learn new things. As a child, you're always learning new things. You're always kind of like excited and ready for that and curious. Um, but what about in adulthood? Like, have you been incorporating that natural curiosity that you have? We've kind of lost that, I think, in adulthood. So would you like to learn something starting this fall, like gardening or a new language or something like that? um, I found that in therapy, I was able to connect with that part of me, that like sense of wonder, that childlike curiosity. So much of my work in therapy over the last 6 years I've been in therapy has been connecting to my inner child. So I've benefited so much from connecting with her. I feel like it has improved my relationships, my professional life. It has improved my trust in myself, my connection to my child. I just can't talk about therapy enough. I think it's the best investment I've ever made in my life and will continue to make. So try BetterHelp. It's amazingly easy. Give it a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge, which is so nice. Visit betterhelp.com/almost30 today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/almost30. We recently had an episode with the founder of Fatty 15, and we heard from so many of you that were fascinated and so excited to try Fatty 15. So, this is an incredible scientific breakthrough to support your long term health and wellness. I was pretty shocked by some of the facts that were shared in this episode. One of them was that there is a dramatic increase in the number of age related conditions for young people, like high cholesterol, high blood pressure. And C15, the lack thereof, is usually one of the root causes of these conditions. So, C15 is the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in 90 years. And get this, studies have confirmed that it's 3 times better, broader, and safer than omega 3. But in simple terms, it's the essential nutrients that keep our cells healthy. So, if you want to get sciencey about it, studies show that C15 works by strengthening our cells, improving our mitochondrial function, and protecting us against damaging free radicals. So, the result is better long term metabolic, liver, and heart health. It ends up that many of us are deficient, as I said, with C15, which results in weaker cells that make less energy and quit working earlier than they should. All of that makes us age faster, sleep terribly, feel sluggish. Anybody else? Like, are you feeling me? So, this is so important. Fatty 15 has 3 times more cellular benefits than omega 3 or fish oil. Fatty 15 is made from a patented, pure, and oxidation resistant C15 powder derived from plants. So, it's vegan friendly, free of flavors, fillers, allergens, or preservatives. And C15 is the only ingredient in Fatty 15. It's 100% pure. So I am thrilled and excited to share this with you. They are on a mission to replenish your C15 levels and restore your long-term health. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/almost30 and using the code almost30 at checkout. That's fatty15.com/almost30. Use the code almost30 at checkout for 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit.
Already crying before we even started.
It's so special when Krista and I either or are present enough to remember to pray before
Mm.
an interview. And I'd actually love to start there with just your relationship with God, source, universe, whatever you call it. We've had our own kind of coming back to God. So I'm curious where you are now, where you've been related to God.
Well, it's a long story,
Yeah,
a
I know, I'm like-
fascinating one. It starts in Tallahassee, Florida, being raised Southern Baptist.
Yeah.
You know, having sweaty dudes in khaki suits yelling at me from a pulpit, telling me what I should and shouldn't do with my body. And even at 5 years old, being like, oof, that's not it for me.
Yeah.
That is not it for me. And I remember at 5, I asked my mom, I was like, how do we know we're Baptist? And she was like, well, excuse me, 5-year-old daughter. I was like, how do we know we're Baptist? Like, were we born Baptist? Did we choose it? And because your best friend is Buddhist, and like my best friend is Jewish, and that guy said they're going to hell. And so that feels confusing to me. And I was like, can I maybe go check out some other stuff? And at 5, my mom let me go. I mean, there wasn't a big selection in Tallahassee,
Yeah.
Florida, but she let me go to
Wow.
like the Church of Latter-day Saints and the synagogue and, like check out the different flavors of Christianity that you could find in
Totally.
Tallahassee. And so I realized at a pretty early age that God is a disco ball.
Yeah.
And I have a disco ball in my living room to remind me of this, that we are all looking at the same thing.
Yeah.
And you might see purple and I might see green, but we're looking at the same thing.
Yeah.
And then in my study of the Vedas, which is, I guess, about 16 years now of studying this like beautiful ancient philosophy, this
Mm.
human interpretation of natural law. And the Vedas, like the foundational concept is that there's only one thing and that we're all it, and that one thing is consciousness.
Mhm.
And so I guess my working definition of God as of late is that I would say it's the collective consciousness of all that is. The collective consciousness of all that is. So me and you and that fake plant and Pluto and every car and every dog and all of it, the collective consciousness of all that is. That is my working definition of God. But more excitingly and more like yummy would be in the past 3 years, I've had this pretty massive transition and spiritual awakening and I would say discovery of the goddess. Like
Mm.
discovery. I've just heard Bob Thurman speak. Bob Thurman's an amazing Buddhist scholar. We went to
Yeah.
India last year to see the Dalai Lama. He's been
Wow.
like best friends with the Dalai Lama for 50 years and speaks and reads Tibetan and is an extraordinary teacher on Buddhism. And he's in his 80s. And I just heard him speak a few weeks ago. And he's like, yeah, God got grumpy because we took away Mrs. God. I was like, thank bless you, Bob Thurman.
Wait, tell me more.
We've removed the divine feminine
Yeah.
from so much of the mythology. We've removed the goddess. We've removed the mother figure.
Mhm.
And I think that, I mean, I could go on about this for a long time, but in my personal path in the last 3 years, I've really rediscovered the goddess and rediscovered my relationship with the divine feminine. And the way that that's incarnated for me has been through Isis.
Mm.
And so Isis is the Egyptian goddess of motherhood and fertility and sex and magic and sex magic. And so it's been such a beautiful new experience because I've never anthropomorphized God like I do with Isis. Like I
Yeah.
feel her, I know her, I can invoke her.
Yeah.
We have a relationship. She speaks through me, she teaches through me, and I've never had that before. And and it was so funny. I was like, yeah, she just shows up spontaneously. And then I looked around my room and I was like, Isis, another Isis altar, an Isis candelabra, Isis deck. I was like, oh, this is not
She's always
spontaneous.
been.
Like I have built a temple to her. I have spent a
Wow.
lot of time like giving thanks for her. And even in my pleasure practices, like I will invite her in to use my body like as an act of gratitude. Like, thank
Mm.
you, thank you, thank you for everything you have given me. Like, may I offer my 3D incarnate self to
Yeah.
you in this unmanifest form. And even I think that's why we pray before we eat,
Mm.
is like getting into this space, reconnecting with the unseen world because the unmanifest entities can't eat food. So just the sheer
Yeah.
pleasure of tasting a fresh tomato with salt or drinking your first sip of cacao in the morning, like could we offer this up to the guides that are giving us so much?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I haven't like felt that interpretation before where they're inviting them in to kind of experience through us.
Yeah.
And I've heard God kind of like, wanting to experience this life through us human beings and living things and non-living things. But yeah, that's so powerful. How did you connect with Isis? Like, how
Mm-hmm.
did you know that she was going to be who you were going to work with? And how
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about the pleasure practice and what that really looks like.
Yeah. So deep COVID, recent divorce. And I can't remember if we talked about this on the last podcast or not, but 3 weeks after I asked for a divorce, I met my partner and my best friend, who's an amazing Tantra teacher. And then a few weeks later, I moved in with Regina Thomashower, AKA Mama Gina. And nature just started fire hosing me with this PhD in sacred sexuality. And I
Wow.
was like, oh, okay, I'm listening.
Yeah.
And it felt like not just for my own edification. It was like, hey, you know that thing you did for meditation? You know, you've helped to make it accessible and attractive to hundreds of thousands of people. Well, now it's time to do that for sacred sexuality.
And where
It's-
were you at the point at that time in relationship to your sexuality?
I mean, I think that the 13 years of meditation that I've been practicing at that
Yeah.
point had made very fertile ground for like when those tantric seeds got planted. It was a real like it was
Yeah.
an explosion. It was an
Sure.
awakening. And also, you know, anyone who's been through like a big breakup or a divorce, it's like there are parts of you that come online. Every relationship has an alchemical factor to it. You know, so who you are with one person is different than who you are single, is different than who you are with another person.
Yes.
And so there was a lot of me coming online. And I had a full like timeline shift. It was like my life was going in one very clear trajectory. And then literally in one day, I did a deep medicine ceremony, met Layla, my best friend, met Adam. And it was like, oh, we're in a different universe now. And then it was initiation after initiation after initiation, which has largely birthed a lot of the work that I'm doing now with embodied manifesting and sacred secret. And so it was, so anyway, a few months into this, my partner Adam threw me a birthday party. And I don't think I've ever talked about this publicly, but we invited 20 friends to my friend's farmhouse.
Uh-huh.
And he basically created like an off-Broadway level caliber ceremony, like lighting, set, music.
Which we appreciate.
We appreciate the set.
Musical theater girlies.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, 10 years of Broadway, my production standards are high.
Totally.
But like the soundtrack, and every single person that got invited had to go through a whole screening process with him because he didn't know my friends. Like he was new to my life. He was like, I'm planning all of this. Just tell me who you want there. So every single person had to do an interview with him. Every single person had to bring an offering, like create a ceremonial offering for me. And they had to write a spell, which he had transcribed, hand calligraphied into a leather-bound book. He made me a magic wand. Every time I would read the spells, he had like chimes. It was wild.
Wow.
But the people that I invited were not like, it wasn't just your average run-of-the-mill people. Like if you ask them to do a ceremony, like they're not phoning it in. Like these are world-class witches, world-class healers.
I expect nothing less from you and your friends.
it was 3.5 hours of just like invocation, ceremony, blessing after blessing. And Adam, my partner, had basically turned it into an Isis temple. He had an Isis tapestry. He had these Isis oracle decks. He had this Isis candelabra. I didn't really have much of a relationship with her, but he called me the high priestess of embodied joy. And so the sort of theme of the party was to initiate me as the high priestess of embodied joy. So that was what everyone was like, that was the theme of all of these. And oh God. So, I mean, I don't know, you can edit this out if you want to, but it's worth telling.
Don't.
It's worth saying.
Say it.
Is that like one of the invocations that Mama Gina did on the other side? I remember Adam said, if your next book doesn't have the tagline, so embarrassing. Oh God, here goes.
Here we go.
4 out of 7 sex witches agree my pussy smells like sunshine. I was like, okay. And this is what I say when my life took a big departure.
Yeah.
I mean, I was teaching at like Google and Harvard and Viacom and doing meditation for extraordinary performance and, just living a very sort of like traditional life. And then here I am like doing some really wild ceremonies. I remember my big desires that I wanted a cake for the express purpose of sitting on it. Which
that's on my list.
Highly recommend. Like 10 out of 10 would recommend. By the way, we got a Whole Foods Chantilly lace cake.
Okay.
And it just like, it's spongy and like 3 or 4 layers. And it's just a really good sensation. It sat in the refrigerator. Yes. Sat in the refrigerator for the next 3 days, just with my butt imprint on it.
Unreal.
Yeah. So where were we? Oh, Isis. So after that, like, yes, it was an invocation of the high priestess of embodied joy. But after that, like the Isis codes got installed. And then in December, I got invited on an amazing trip to Egypt with
Wow.
42 world-class healers. And while we didn't go to the Isis temple then, I've been before, we got to spend all night in the pyramids in the king's chamber,
Whoa.
and we were singing, and it was the closest thing to like an actual real temple space that I've ever been in, but there was no leader. Like we were all healing and being healed, serving and being served, singing in 42-part harmony, laying in the sarcophagus, toning, activating the sound frequencies and vibration frequencies of the pyramid. And so after that, it felt very clear that part of my mission is to help bring the frequency of heaven to earth, but
Mm.
through the body. That heaven is not a destination, that it is a vibration, and that we
Mm.
can bring the frequency of heaven to earth through our bodies. And why I think this is so radical is that so many of us, especially through like Judeo-Christian, mythology, we've seen God as something outside,
Yeah.
something away from, that it's somewhere to go. And I almost think that in like its darkest form, Christianity especially can be a very exaggerated version of the "I'll be happy when" syndrome, of like, I'm willing to suffer through this life for a perceived payoff in the future. And I just can't sign up for that reality. And like, I'm not anti-Christian. Like I am pro anything that
Yep.
brings more joy, more connection, more feeling like nature has our back, more connection to self. Like I am
Mhm.
pro anything that does that for people.
Yes.
And for me personally, I have found the practices that celebrate the simultaneity of individuality and totality, the practices that celebrate our humanity and our divinity in equal measure at the same time. Those are the things that allow my life to feel like heaven on earth.
Mhm. Yeah, the embodiment piece and experiencing heaven through our bodies. It sounds amazing, right?
Yeah.
But why are we so I feel like I remember a time in my life and I remember a time in Krista's life too, and I've really seen her just transform over the last year, where any talk of sex or anything like that just sent us into giggles and blushing, and we're not going to touch that.
Yeah.
Kind
Yeah.
of a closing off and a brushing off. And I guess what have you seen in your work with people as far as like the origins of that? You mentioned Christianity and all of that, but
Mhm.
is there something deeper here as far as like our disconnection with our body?
Mm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of directions we could go. I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about how we've been trained to not feel our feelings.
Yes.
I want to talk about how we've been trained and shamed out of our pleasure to make us think that that is unholy, when I think that nothing could be further than the truth. For thousands of years, ecstasy was actually seen as a purifying force, as a way to get closer to God, as a way to purify the vessel, as a way to bring the frequency of heaven to earth. But I think it starts very early from like, the moment when we're in heaven, like we're in the womb, right?
Uh-huh.
Just connected to source, all of our needs being met in this like amniotic sac of bliss and fulfillment and love. And then we go through this massive initiation, and suddenly it's fluorescent lights and forceps and beeping and whatever the F else is happening in this 3D reality. Like,
Yes.
the way we've taken ceremony out of birth is a whole
It
other
is
podcast
crazy.
for another day. But that intense experience of like, oh, welcome to the 3D world, baby's crying. What's the first thing we do? Shh, don't cry. You're fine. Shh, don't cry. So, like, immediately we're taught to override our feelings. And that just gets more like, don't cry, have a toy. Don't cry, have an iPad. Don't cry, have a
Yeah.
bottle. Don't cry, have some booze, have some coffee, have some pot, have some pills. But whatever you do, do not feel your feelings,
Yeah.
because I've never been taught how to feel my feelings. So your feelings make me feel uncomfortable. And so, since parents don't know how to regulate their emotions, we keep overriding our children. You're fine. You're fine. You're okay. Are you okay? Are you okay? When it's like, no, they just fell down. They're bleeding. They're in pain. They're not okay. They're hurting.
Yeah.
So how do we sit with, hold space for, honor their experience without trying to fix anything? And so that's actually been a lot of my work, is just getting big enough and getting comfortable enough with my own feelings, getting brave enough to feel my own fucking feelings so that I can actually hold space for my students and hold space on my retreats and hold space so that people don't feel othered or that there's something wrong with them or judged or that there's something to fix when they're simply doing the thing that feelings were made for, which is to be felt.
Yes.
Right? Like of all of the work that I've done, medicine ceremonies, darkness retreats, 16 years studying the Vedas, 16 years meditating, I just keep coming back to this simple, simple truth, which is that feelings are meant for feeling.
Yeah.
That feelings are meant for feeling. And so part of this formula, part of this body of work that I'm doing with the pleasure is just teaching people how to feel at all. Like, because good luck accessing the full spectrum of your ecstasy if you've been numbing your pain for 4 decades. You know, it's like we got to learn how to go into the darkness first and alchemize that. And then the good news is that it makes space for more joy. Like the darkness really does carve out space for more joy. The pain carves out space for more ecstasy. And then once your capacity is bigger, then you can start to use that pleasure to pray. And this is sort of like the crux of this new body of work for me, is that it's like the simplest embodied manifesting formula ever, which is feel good, place the order, feel good. Like feel good, place the order, feel good. And that might sound like an override or bypassing, but it's not. It's like, I don't mean put a happy face sticker on top of trauma that's unprocessed. I don't mean pretending that everything is fine. I mean doing whatever the fuck it takes to actually sustainably and reliably and self-sufficiently feel good.
Yeah.
And that usually means facing your trauma, doing some inner child work, it's cleaning up your lies, telling the truth, healing your codependence, dealing with your addiction, like whatever it is, whatever we've been doing to numb, we got to face that. We got to own that. We got to sit in that. We got to feel those feelings. But here's the good news. Within like 90 seconds of crying, you start to feel better. You give me 2 minutes of a rage song, you're going to start to have a little bit of inkling of ecstasy starting to bubble up in your body. It's the decades of pretending that you're fine that actually costs us so much and makes us so sick.
And decades of avoiding because the fear of not coming back after feeling that, really the depths of what that feeling is. I think that's what I've observed in a lot of people. That's what I've experienced, where will I come back from actually feeling that? That feels too much, too scary, too dark, too deep. And to your point, it's so temporary. Like it is so temporary.
If you go all the way in.
If you go all the way.
Like if you really let yourself feel it.
What does that look like in your life when you've felt, what have you, an example of something that you've avoided feeling?
All of it, all the time.
All
like,
the time.
Like codependent, child of an alcoholic, Southern Christian, Southern Baptist performer, Broadway performer, like you name it. Like I am world class at avoiding my feelings. I am expert at bypassing. Like I have, like truly, like I would put myself in the Olympics of it. And
did you know you were doing it at the time? Like, was it conscious, or was it just, did you convince yourself so much that like, I'm good? Or what was that? Because the performer thing is really interesting because I relate. So I'll just double tap there, because it's like, we can be really good at putting on a mask and or just acting as though things are okay when they're not, or whatever that is. And I think I convinced myself, like truly convinced myself over time.
Well, the thing is, I would just invite you to be gentle with yourself, because it's most likely a both and. Right? Like certainly there's, for all of us, there's some level of bypassing, there's some level of avoidance, and reframes also work. Like using your, like if you're a performer, like there's a level of alchemy that is happening there, right? Like you're taking that depth of intense emotions and alchemizing it with creativity, or alchemizing it through dance or song or acting or whatever the art form is. Creativity will alchemize destruction. Pleasure will alchemize pain. So it's a both and, right?
Love that.
And so it's not like, I think we want to give ourselves the benefit of the doubt, is that we were using the tools that we had access to at the time. And yes, I 100% convinced myself that this was all fine. I remember I sat in my therapist's office when I was 24 and my dad had just died. I'm just wearing this pink dress, big hair, big lashes. And I sat down and I'm wearing a pink dress now. And he goes,
Real lashes, baby.
Well, no, extensions.
They look great.
Thanks. um, he goes, oh, you're a strong, angry woman. And I was like, no, I'm not. I was like, I never get angry. I'm not angry. And I was like, that felt so foreign to me that he could see my unexpressed rage.
Wow.
And it isn't honestly until a couple of weeks ago, my boyfriend said something that triggered me. And I had just activated Sekhmet in this medicine ceremony. Sekhmet, by the way, is Isis's lion-headed sister. Sort of like, this is a reduction, but I would call her like the Egyptian version of Kali.
Uh-huh.
And so I had really been dancing with her in this recent medicine ceremony, and he said something, and I like this incandescent rage came out.
Wow.
I've never felt that frequency in my body before, and I liked it. And I was like, oh, wow. What do I do with this? And I think the answer is that I let it be expressed, but not at him. Right? Like we never want to point our sword at someone else. Like it's not him that's doing this. Like this is mine, my power, my rage, my unexpressed stuff. And so it's like, how do you create containers where I can be witnessed in it? And if it's consensual for him, be like, hey, like I want to express this. And then so one of the things that I've been developing over the last 3 years is something called emotional alchemy. And it's basically like just giving people a safe container to go all the way in. So we asked like what it looks like. It would be like inviting people to lean into, and I usually do it in the concept of manifesting. So it's like, what is your dream? Like, what is the thing that you want more than anything else? And then what's keeping you from that dream? The story your dad said, the alcoholism, your partner's lack of funds, like whatever the story is. I'm too white, I'm too black, I'm too gay, I'm too young, I'm too old. Whatever your thing is, like, can you then just feel that all the way, the rage of that, the upset of that, and then we just put on music and have people move it, like shaking, punching, screaming, like letting that toddler that didn't get to tantrum, like letting them do that. And then what happens is that there's like an incandescent fire and people start to like the expression of it. And then usually that rage is protecting something a little bit more soft, a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit younger, a little bit more innocent. That piece of us that's afraid that the dreams will never happen or afraid to even dream at all. I don't know what I want. And so we allow that to be expressed through sacred sorrow. And sometimes the music becomes the medicine, and just letting people fake cry or roll around on the ground or like as if they're modern dancers, like dancing as if they were sorrow. And then on the other side of that, usually in just 2 songs, people are like a lot more open, a lot more vulnerable, a lot more soft. They have so much more life force. And then we start to tap into the bliss, right? Because Ziva means bliss. It's a Sanskrit word that means bliss. And then we see if that music or that bliss starts to alchemize or turn up the volume on the frequency that is the match for the dream. And then if we're feeling really fancy or like on retreats, we start to sprinkle in a little bit of turn on, a little bit of that eros, a little bit of that erotic energy, because again, I call that creation energy. And creation will alchemize destruction. Like pleasure is potent enough to metabolize pain. And I recently have had 2 healers be like, oh, you're a peacock person. Oh, your power animal is a peacock. And you would think like, okay, Broadway showgirl, okay, I get it. But what they said was that peacocks eat venom.
Ooh.
They eat poison and they turn it into their feathers.
No way.
Yes. And so I was like, this is my entire life's work. Like I take people's stress and I alchemize it into bliss with meditation, or I help people to take their trauma and to alchemize it with pleasure into their fuel for their dreams.
Wow.
And so I was like, this makes so much sense.
Wow. Wow. Okay. The pleasure piece.
Yeah.
When you say that that pleasure alchemizes pain. Can we talk about that more?
Yep.
Because, yeah, I can think about it.
Yeah.
But I'm not fully getting it because I think feeling it in our bodies is kind of where it's at. So where are we starting with that?
Yep.
Because I think people hear pleasure and words are so powerful. I feel like, people automatically think of something.
You like sex.
Yeah, sex or whatever in their life has kind of deemed that word positive, negative, taboo.
They think about like the pleasure palace selling sex toys or something.
Yes.
Yeah, versus like the pleasure you could get from sipping your tea or hearing your child's laughter or like truly like savoring a sunset and not only witnessing it, but being witnessed by it. Like that, like pleasure is everywhere all around us. And in this particular context, I am speaking of like a physical sensation of pleasure. And so I'll tell like a really extreme story to
Great.
illustrate this, just in case we haven't freaked enough people out with my sunshine story.
Not at all.
For my birthday, again, a few weeks ago, my birthday tends to be a
I love this.
real ceremony.
I love because I'll just say that I am always inspired by people who create pause for long enough and are open to the actual celebration of their life. I feel like I kind of move through birthdays kind of fast and or
Yeah.
privately.
Yeah.
And I just love.
Well, I want to really
This.
shout out like Adam and Layla because they have they are the ones that are doing that with me and for me.
Love that.
Because I am pretty bratty about my birthday. I'm like, "Meh, meh, meh, meh," and I get like contracty about it. And so it's really like Adam who like creates these containers and he's so good at making ceremony space. But we invited my friend who is he's been studying shibari for the past few years, which is
Okay.
this shibari is this ancient Japanese rope art. And it's like this artistry of tying knots, and you can like almost make artwork. People can sometimes do it on a wall, or you can tie someone's body.
Yeah.
And so he asked if he could tie me, and I said yes. And it's a real act of surrender, which is not my forte, right? Like I am a double Aries. I am a 3 on the Enneagram. I am
Wow.
the CEO of a company. I'm a part-time single mom. I am the breadwinner of my family. You know, like I am like an alpha of alphas, leader of leaders.
Yes.
And so surrender is really something I'm actively cultivating. I am not surrendering my way to surrender. I am working my way to surrender right now. So anyway, I was like, yes, please tie me up. And so it takes him about 45 minutes to do it. And he's doing all these beautiful knots. So even that slowing down process. And then he's like, are you ready? And I said, for what? He like pulls one of the ropes and he pulls my body up. He suspends my body. So I am hanging in midair. I weigh about 140 pounds. These ropes are like tiny, like 1/4 inch ropes. So my entire body weight is now being suspended by these ropes. And it's an intense sensation.
Yeah.
Like just at points, it's bordering on painful, but intense. And I'm there for a while. And then the intensity starts to build into pain. And then the pain is getting stronger. And so in real time, I am having to source like anything that I can to help to metabolize this pain, to help to process this pain. I'm like, I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. But then I'm starting to source pleasure inside of my own body, like activate what I call creation energy. Because really, the same thing that can create a baby is the same energy that can create a movement or a book or a company, or like it's the same energy.
Yeah.
And every time we access this sexual energy, we do not create a baby. And yet that potentiality is available to us. When the sperm hits the egg, there is light and energy that is released that is 10,000 times more powerful than the sun.
Wow.
I'm going to say that again.
Yeah,
when the
please do.
sperm hits the egg, there is energy and light that is released that is 10,000 times more powerful than the sun.
Wow.
Okay, so like that is the level of creative potentiality that we are dealing with when we start to tap into our eros, when we start to tap into our pleasure. And so I am sourcing that pleasure through breath, through sound, through just like taking in the space, through celebrating my beloveds. And that pleasure starts to metabolize the pain. Like it's starting to counteract the pain. And you've probably, like this is why BDSM is a thing, is that the pain and pleasure centers are very close to each other in the brain. And I didn't really fully understand that until I did my first Vipassana retreat.
Okay.
Because in Vipassana, you're meditating still for 10 hours a day. No eye contact, no reading, no writing, no journaling, just you, and you're sitting still for 10 hours a day. And so by minute 46, I was like, certainly I'll have to amputate my legs. Like, certainly I'll never walk again. Just like extreme pain. But if you sit in that pain long enough, something pulls back. There is like a lens that gets pulled back, and then that pain starts to turn into pleasure. So I would go into these like 24-hour cycles of what felt like orgasm, but not sexual orgasm, just like that unity, that oneness, that extraordinary pleasure of transcendence. So I was tapping into something similar as I'm being suspended in these shibari ropes. And I could feel that the pain was like a machete in my brain, like
Mm.
cutting out space in my brain, like similar to childbirth. And then finally, I'm like, I do this for a while, and I'm able to sort of dance with the pleasure and the pain. And then finally, I reach my max. I'm like at a 10 out of 10, and I'm like, okay, uncle, like I gotta get down. And he's like, okay, it's gonna take me about 15 minutes to untie you. And I was like, okay. We got to find the reserve tank. I mean, again, similar to childbirth, where you're like,
Oh, yeah.
I got to reach into a tank I didn't know I had. And so again, breath and pleasure. And then finally I get put on the ground and my body weight is released and the pain secedes. It's the cessation of pleasure that actually creates that dopamine and serotonin release in the brain. So then here I am having had the pain act as a machete, create so much more spaciousness for so much more awareness. And then I had more capacity for all kinds of inputs. And then I felt that I had a more capacity for pleasure, which is
Mm.
actually like at the crux of the sacred secret formula. It is at the foundation of this embodied manifestation formula, is that we go into our pain, we feel it all the way, and that clears the channel for this creation energy to come through and to fuel our dreams, to allow us to vibrate at the frequency of that which we choose to magnetize.
Mm. Okay, it is the fall time, and your girl is obsessed with making just the yummiest sandwiches, both for me and my husband. And I cannot get enough of Hero bread. So I first became obsessed with them over the summer when I had their Hawaiian rolls, and I literally finished the bag of them in 2 days by myself. Why do I love this bread company? So not only are they delicious, but Hero bread is healthier. It's healthier than your typical slice of bread or tortilla or Hawaiian roll. Um, I feel like bread is something that I don't ever want to give up, but I also know how I feel when I'm eating kind of like more conventional bread. So, Hero bread has 0 to 1 grams of net carbs. It has zero sugar and it's high in fiber. Um, Plus, it's delicious. I think that's hard to do when it's a healthy bread, but they've done it. Soft, fluffy. Um, I'm just literally in love with it. I just placed an order actually yesterday. I got my tortillas, the flour tortillas are some of my favorites. I got the Hawaiian rolls. What else? Oh, I got the cheddar biscuits. I know. What? Yes, that is true. Check out like their limited edition breads, and the cheddar biscuits are one of them. But if you want to keep the carbs out of your bread experience without compromising flavor, Hero bread is it. Get 10% off your order at hero.co, hero.co, and use the code almost30 at checkout. That's hero.co, hero.co. That's code almost30 for 10% off your order. I'm so excited for you. Let me know how you're loving it. Okay, enjoy. One of the frequently asked questions that I get as a new mom is, what prenatal did you use before pregnancy, during pregnancy, and even now, postpartum? And I take Ritual. It is so important that you have a proper prenatal supplement. So, one thing that I just didn't want to worry about was getting the key nutrients I needed to support my pregnancy in particular. And I feel so confident with Ritual's Essential for Women prenatal vitamin. It's designed to deliver 12 key nutrients for pregnancy in just 2 daily capsules. It makes taking it so easy. I know a lot of you out there might be newly pregnant or wanting to become pregnant, and y'all, that first month, you're nauseous. Most of us are nauseous and it's hard to take supplements, and they make it so easy. So, first, I want to just shout out, it has methylated folate, which is the folate that you need, and nature identical choline. This really is so important to support baby's neural tube development. One of the most important things. It also has omega 3 DHA for brain and early vision development, and vitamin D to support fetal bone health. As I mentioned, easy to take. Each capsule features a delayed release design to help it make it easier on your empty stomach. Also, every bottle has a citrus essence tab so you can enjoy taking your multis. It won't smell or taste disgusting. It actually tastes amazing. So, if you are someone that is looking for a prenatal vitamin, We got you. It's so important to know what you're putting into your body, especially when you're pregnant. And with Rituals, a dedication to traceable science and sourcing, you always will. See for yourself with 25% off your first month for a limited time at ritual.com/almost30. Ritual.com/almost30. Okay, there's a lot there. Well, I mean, you're channeling, so I am listening deeply. The sacred secret.
Mm.
So you mentioned part of the formula. Can we talk about this? So this
Yeah.
has been your work over the last 3 years,
Hmm. Yeah.
or part of your work.
Yeah. So just in case people aren't familiar, like Ziva is my baby, is my company, and Ziva has been all about like meditation for performance. And
Yeah.
what does that mean? Like, who are we performing for? What does that mean, performance? And I feel like the whole world has changed since 2020. Like, we're performing for ourselves. Like we are performing for nature. But to have a good performance, you need to be grounded, open, feeling good, a vessel, present.
Yes.
And so Ziva is a meditation style that's going to bring you home to yourself. It's going to allow you to tune into yourself. And it's all about getting rid of stress so that you can perform at the top of your game. And it works. And I would say that it is the foundation of this embodied manifesting tool. And with Sacred Secret, well, let me back it up. Ziva is all about meditation and manifestation, right? That's sort of like our special sauce. It's like we've been like tapping into source and then placing the order. So again, feeling good and placing the order. And now with Sacred Secret, it's a 3-part formula, which is visualize, alchemize, magnetize. So I basically help people to drop into this meditative state, to like drop into source, and then have them visualize one thing that they would love. And it doesn't have to be your like biggest pinnacle lifelong dream. It's just like, what would you love right now? Like, what's one thing that you would love? Trusting that all of your desires are divinely inspired, that nature has actually given us these desires, not because that's where we need to go to fill ourselves up, not because we will be happy once we achieve or manifest the desires, but because our desires are an indicator of where nature wants to use us to deliver our fulfillment.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important delineation, because if you're not approaching your manifestation practice from that piece, then it's just another version of I'll be happy when. It's just another like, like once I get the Ferrari, then I will be happy.
Yes.
So it's like, no, I'm happy now. My bliss is inside of me. I access that here and now. So from that place of connection, I have people visualize something that they would love. Then we alchemize. So we just talked about that, the emotional alchemy. What's in the way of that? Can I feel it? Can I feel it fully? And alchemy, by the way, the definition is the magical process. It's actually in the dictionary, the magical process of transforming one thing into another. So you're basically the magical process of taking your biggest fears and transforming them into fuel. But that happens through the feeling and the expressing of them, not the denying of those feelings. Right. So we visualize, we alchemize, and then we magnetize. And you can magnetize in a lot of different ways. You can do it through play, like truly, like just play, like playing a game, playing a song, playing with your kid, playing hide and go seek, playing a card game. Like there's like play. You've seen the neuroscience, the memes on Instagram, right? The memes of like it takes 400 repetitions to learn something unless you do it in play, in which it takes 10.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Like we are so much more neuroplastic when we are in a state of presence and play. So, so that is one way you can do it. You can increase your magnetism through breath work. Breath work is this magical free tool. It's available to all of us. You can get into the highly psychedelic states, healing states, ecstatic states through your breath. And you can also do it through actual pleasure practices, like physical stimulation pleasure practices. And so what we're doing in magnetize is that you're actually turning on the magnet of your body, which is it's like your root. It's what I call your hoo-ha. And by the way, everybody has a hoo-ha. It is gender inclusive.
Yes.
And it is both the anatomy and the energy center around your hoo-ha. And so for me, manifestation is like, yes, you can manifest from your neck up. Yes, you can manifest thoughts become things. That is real. It works. But if you want to supercharge that shit, get your head, your heart, and your hoo-ha all in alignment with each other and all pointed towards the same thing. Because the electromagnetic field of our hearts is 5,000 times more powerful than that of our heads.
Yes.
Right? So it's like, yes, we need our intellect. Yes, we want this to be our advisory committee. But we want the heart to be the like truly the navigation system. Like the heart is the one that's
Compass,
pointing at the
yeah.
compass, but then our hoo-ha becomes our generator and our magnet. That we do, and this is quite a feminine way of thinking about things, because if you think about, like, the egg is magnetizing, the sperm is swimming. So the egg is discerning, right? Like she is in her spot, she is leaned back, she is magnetizing, and she is discerning. The sperm is swimming and competing and like trying to go faster and harder. And to, I mean, I know that's a little bit gendered, the sperm and the egg, but to really take the masculine and feminine far beyond gender, if you were to look at a cell, like any cell, it has the masculine container, right? Like it's without that masculine container, it's just gooey, oozy gel, right? But the feminine is that fluid gel inside. And when you have the combination of the masculine container and that feminine fluid gel inside, it can create the capacity to receive and channel light through it. If you want to go even smaller than that, if you look at an atom, there's like the masculine frame of the atomic structure. It's like a matrix. It looks like a grid. And the feminine is the light and the energy that flows through that atom that animates it. So we all have this perfect balance of masculine structure and feminine flow, of masculine container and feminine receptivity, like inside of every atom, inside of every cell, inside of every single part of us, irrespective of your anatomy or your gender. And I really believe that this true magnetism comes from the polarity that is found inside of embracing your own masculine and feminine, which comes back to your original question of God. If God is only masculine, if our relationship with the divine is only one-sided, then we are robbing ourselves of half of the truth, the internal polarity that comes from embracing our masculine and feminine qualities inside of ourselves, and then the magnetism that comes from that polarity and that duality.
The magnetism piece, because I think a lot of people, me being one of them, and mostly in years past, I feel like in my 20s, this was it, where I held off on any pleasure or play or any of that feeling good prior to getting the thing that I was visualizing.
Yes.
And you mentioned that earlier, where that deprivation, that suffer, um, and it's transformed my life to understand and truly believe that my joy unlocks everything. And I think it's been one of the greatest realizations of my life, but also heartbreaking to understand that those that modeled it and taught me this, whether purposely or not, I don't know if they'll ever experience the unlock that joy brings. And, that's their own journey. I'm kind of speaking to older generations where I feel like that's kind of what they were taught, how they survived, continued to survive. So it's been, I feel so blessed to kind of have that realization. And we're also living in a world where I don't know if the majority of people have experienced that. So that's why I love your work and just how it is on a global scale, slowly but surely, really people are embodying this work more and thus affecting the people around them.
Yeah.
But it's such a weird thing at first to be around maybe your family that you've always been around or your friends that you grew up with, and you're actually embodying your joy, your pleasure, maybe you're playing and all the things that you just described. And you feel different. You feel like the black sheep. You feel misunderstood.
Yeah.
So I just want to speak to the person out there that really wants to feel this, is maybe on the precipice of feeling this. Maybe they are, but they're not public with it yet and haven't allowed themselves to be in the world and around people and feeling their pleasure yet. Because I think that's a tipping point, at least for me.
Yes.
Not apologizing for feeling good, not apologizing for being in that joy. Because I was someone that was very codependent. And I'm like, let me be low with you.
Yeah, if you're suffering, I'm going to suffer more.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it.
Let me suffer for you. So much here. Thank you for this amazing question. And I just want to like celebrate you and also say that like same.
Yeah.
I did not prioritize my pleasure until I understood that it could fuel my dreams.
Mhm.
And this is an embarrassing admission, but it's similar to what I did with meditation. I was like, wait a minute. You mean sitting quietly in a chair is going to make me more money and have better sex? Hang on. Like, why isn't everyone doing this? Like, it's not just the
Yes.
name of my podcast. Like, when I find something that works, I'm like, why isn't everyone doing this? And so for me, I think why Ziva has been so successful is that I was able to reframe meditation as a productivity tool in a time when everyone was just interested in producing more. And how can I make more, do more,
Right.
achieve more? I mean, my book is called Stress Less, Accomplish More, right? That I was framing meditation as a productivity tool. And like, that's true. Like, you can meditate and get more done in a day and feel better. But actually, that's happening because you are more blissful.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the same now with pleasure because, you know, I have all the same shame and conditioning and everything else that all of us are swimming in. And so it's been really like an extraordinary journey to break these taboos and to out myself in a lot of different ways. And, but it, honestly, I wouldn't have done it. I would not have been investing in my pleasure if I didn't make the connection of like, oh, I can use my pleasure to supercharge my manifestations. And this shit works. Like there is,
Mhm.
I mean, my life is living proof of it. Like in a time in deep COVID lockdown, in the middle of a divorce, living in New York City, like my whole life is being like torn apart in more way. My friend groups moved. My
Wow.
son is now having to live in two homes. Like it was like brutal. And I was having like the best time of my entire life. Like I was happier, healthier, more radiant, more turned on, making more money. Like all of this started to happen as a direct result of me creating more pleasure in my body, giving myself permission to experience that pleasure.
Yes.
And actually, in hindsight, thank God we were in deep COVID because I think I needed that sort of insular like cocoon to rebirth myself before I would have been brave enough to go out into the world and be like, this is Emily 2.0.
Yeah.
Like this is this new version of me. But I think now that I understand that link, and I know that so many of us are still attached to like my worthiness is defined by how much I've earned or what I've achieved or what I've accomplished. So I'm doing actually a very similar thing now with sacred sexuality as I did with meditation. It's like, hey, this sacred sexuality thing can actually help you to fuel your dreams. So all that stuff that you want, you can get it through pleasure. It doesn't really matter if you're tapping into the pleasure to achieve the thing or if it is the pleasure that makes it. It's like it is all the same. As long as the ripple effect is that you are more blissful, you are more connected to your center, you are more connected to your guides, and you have more pleasure coursing through your body, your life is going to be better. You will be vibrating at a different frequency and you will start to attract people and opportunities and because the brain is a filtration system, like we have a filtration device in our brain, and it is called the reticular activating system. It's a bundle of neurons at the base of the brain. And our vibration determines what the reticular activating system is filtering in and out. So if you are filtering for stress and life-threatening situations and all of the reasons why you suck and all the reasons why you're not wealthy and all the reasons why New York City doesn't have any good men anymore and all the reasons why blah, 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 like your brain will filter and you will find evidence for what you choose to believe.
Yes.
But if you are feeling good and you have taken the audacious, radical act of cultivating your own neurochemistry of feeling good, the thing that, by the way, God, goddess, nature installed inside of our bodies, this God-given gift of feeling good, if you are radical enough to claim that for yourself and to invest time in cultivating that for yourself, you are changing your vibration and therefore change the filtration device of your brain. So you are basically guaranteed to see different opportunities, different realities. And people are like, but that can't be true. And it's like, at any given moment, there are millions of potential inputs available to the brain, and the brain cannot receive all of them simultaneously. It can receive about 50. And so if there's a million inputs available and your brain is it's possible to process 50 at a time, even changing your vibration by a couple of clicks, that's a whole new
Totally
50,
different, yeah.
whole new reality.
Completely. I feel like especially after COVID.
Oh, can I
Go
just say
ahead.
one thing about your lineage and the other generations is that I would argue that by you reclaiming your pleasure and your bliss for yourself, you actually can like
100%.
unwind at least 7 generations back and 7 generations forward.
I agree.
And maybe not in their 3D human experience, but certainly in the like energetic, in
Yes.
the epigenetic, in the blood karma. And I think about that a lot. And actually, interestingly, even like in our most audacious, like in our deep retreats where we're actually doing pleasure prayer ceremonies, oftentimes people afterwards when we're integrating are like, oh, my grandmother was here. And which might seem like weird. We're like, oh no, grandma was with me doing this whole naughty thing. But then it's like tears and it becomes this gift.
Yeah.
They're like, I was doing this for my grandmother who couldn't.
Yes.
I was feeling this for my grandfather who was like working on a farm, or for my great grandmother who was in a fucking like slave camp, or
Yes.
or a prisoner of war. Or so it's like we have been afforded the extraordinary luxury, the gift of having the potential of accessing our pleasure, for not being jailed for it. You know, I mean,
Yes.
maybe not everyone listening to this, and I know that there are places right now on the planet where that is not available to us. And so for those of us that have the privilege of having access to it, I would argue that we have an opportunity and, dare I say, a responsibility to tap into more light, more pleasure. It's the opposite of codependence, right? Where it's like that the darker things get on planet Earth, we better turn up the light.
Yes.
We better turn up our vibration because we have to create balance on the planet.
Yeah, the responsibility piece. I feel like I've been hearing that internally a lot more, where not just because we have an audience or anything like that, but there's a responsibility to, I think, first and foremost, my family. Like, I think of just kind of this nucleus and how that affects then the second ring around the nucleus, and how we kind of overthink our impact. And I think, starting.
What do you mean overthink your impact?
Like, we have to do the most in order to be impactful.
Oh, yeah.
You know, where what is the point of feeling pleasure within myself if it's not impactful on a grand scale? And I think maybe I'm thinking that because I'm in a position of, quote, influence.
Yeah.
But I've realized that my impact within even myself and also my family system can energetically impact the world.
Yeah. And I would argue that, you know, like it or not, like you are a teacher, like it or not. And I know this word is very triggering, but like you are a guru of sorts. And guru is a Sanskrit word that means bringer of light. You bring light. You bring light through your honesty. You bring light through your curiosity. You bring light through your open-hearted conversations. You bring light through the amount of creativity and joy and care that you've poured into this for 8 years, right? You've brought a lot of light to a lot of people. And so I would argue that because there is a very intimate and very direct transmission happening there, your state of consciousness is impacting every single person who you have touched through this work.
Yeah.
And I see this in my work. Like, I've initiated like face-to-face personally, probably, I don't know, somewhere between 5,000 and 8,000 people. And then online, probably somewhere between like 50 and 100,000 people, depending on which platforms you're talking about. And so I have seen this as I do my work, as I face my demons, as I heal my daddy issues, as I express my unexpressed rage, as I am brave enough to feel those feelings that make space for more light, more joy, more pleasure. I can feel the vibration of this community changing. And not to be narcissistic, because I get that like the global thing is changing too. Like we are just like we're shifting as a species. And that is because of lots of micro communities helping and lifting each other up. So I just want to really like double click on you investing in your joy. Yes, it's for you. It matters just for you. And even if it didn't touch one other person, it would still be worth it for the energetic ripple effect. And even retroactively, you shifting your consciousness in the now, I believe would uplevel the state of consciousness of every single person who's tuned into this podcast.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. Because I've felt it from other people who I know are deeply invested in their joy and their pleasure in feeling their feelings deeply. And I've been changed by
Yeah.
those like very brief interactions, whether it's listening to them or meeting them in person.
And I just want to shout out Regina Thomashower, so my roommate, my dear friend,
Mhm.
like living example, because she is living proof of this. Like she feels her feelings, she cleans her house like energetically, and she's deeply dedicated to pleasure in herself, and also has been teaching goddess worship pleasure practices for 30 years,
Yeah.
and is 67 years old and just like radiant, flirting with the world, having audacious sex, prioritizing her pleasure, like being a living example of how much pleasure can increase our vitality, our vibrance, our radiance, our magic in
Mm.
the world. And she and Layla have really been like huge influences on me. So I just wanted to like pay homage.
Yeah, I mean, those are two powerful. I mean, the fact that you have both of those women in your life and you in their life, like just that goddess what would you call that? Goddess
I mean, just like best friends.
best friends.
Yeah.
I'm giving it the goddess because I feel goddess
Yeah.
from you
Well, because
all.
there's a deep, I'd say all three in our own ways, there's a deep reverence to the divine feminine. And we sort of
Yeah.
like dedicated our lives
It
to
makes
it.
perfect sense that you found one another, and it's
Mhm.
also just I'm in awe,
Me too. I'm
you
in
know?
awe of it. I'm just like, wow, you're amazing, and I'm amazing. And the three of us together, it's like
Yes.
it becomes this amplifying force that I also think is part of the medicine of this day and age, where it's like
Mhm.
this competition, bye. This like tearing
Mhm.
each other down, no time for that. It is time for collaboration, for lifting each other up, for celebrating each other, for celebrating the beauty in each other.
Yep.
And and it, it's just so much more fun. It's so much more fun. And we all get further. And I would say that my dreams are so audacious and big now that like there's no world where I'm under any kind of illusion that I'm going to do it by myself.
Yeah.
You know, like I did have this wild stadium dream for a while, but now it's evolved into this sacred sites dream where it's like, you know, hundreds of thousands of people at the pyramids in Cairo, at Teotihuacan, at the Stonehenge, like at these sacred ancient acupressure points on the planet, activating people in person, but also streaming into the homes of millions of people, like actually tuning
Wow.
into what is their dream for the species and then using their pleasure to pray for it.
I am very picky about my bras. I don't know about you. I am someone whose boobs are changing. I'm breastfeeding, and I want to make sure that I am comfortable in my bras. I want to make sure I have proper coverage. It looks great under clothes. And also looks great if I take off my clothes, you know what I mean? And I love Skims. I have for years now. I love all Skims products, but I want to talk about bras today because I think it's important. I just got their t-shirt demi bra. I have been wearing it nonstop because it is so comfortable. It's a wireless form. So it's like really so comfortable to wear. It's very innovative. They have like these wireless solutions for bras that I think are changing the game. What I love about Skims in general is that their range of sizes is unbelievable. Everything from extra small all the way up to 4X. And their bras are no different. They have a range of sizes from A to H, and they have tons of different colors that I love so much. So I just got the wireless form t-shirt demi bra in the shade mica. So this is gonna go great under like my light white t-shirts, etc. But y'all, it's important to have some great bras. I also really love their weightless scoop bra. So this is one that is like so incredibly light. I forget I'm wearing it. It's kind of sexy. It has like this meshy kind of cup to it, and truly it is weightless. And the shape of the neck is great. So I can wear it with like a deeper V, a scoop neck, really any neck that I have. So I love this one. I have it in espresso and I have it in sand as well. So those are my two picks right now, but all of their bras are amazing. Find the one that you love, that you feel good in, feels comfortable, feels sexy. I really, really love Skims, and they come at a great price point for the quality. So shop Skims bras right now at skims.com. Now available at skims.com. Again, a range of sizes. And if you haven't yet, be sure to let them know we sent you after you place your order. Select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop down menu that follows. Okay. Enjoy your bras. I could listen to you all day. I'm going to pivot a little bit.
Great.
Psychedelics. So we've had many conversations on the podcast about psychedelics. We have had our own experiences with ayahuasca, with psilocybin. Krista has done ketamine, MDMA. The curiosity is high in our community. I'd love to learn about your experience with psychedelics, kind of your ongoing relationship with, and just like your insight as someone who I think has deep reverence for the medicine, into how we can work with it, dance with it, commune with it in a way that is safe, is sustainable, and is actually connecting to like the potent power of it, rather than just kind of the very brief ecstasy of it, or kind of the addictive nature of like, let me feel that feeling again of being in another world, or healing myself over and over and over again and feeling like it's a bottomless pit.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious about your relationship with it and kind of the wisdom you've gleaned and how you maintain the relationship with it.
Thanks for asking. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. And we've updated our mission at Ziva to, and I know it's a little cheesy to share your mission statement, but I really love it, and it feels true to me. And it is, our mission at Ziva is to help people to turn up the dial on their divinity through meditation, pleasure, and medicine, so that we can solve the big challenges that we're facing as a species and have a great time doing it.
Love that.
And so, like, what does turning up the dial on your divinity mean? It means like accessing that inherent creativity and power that nature has given us. And so the modalities that I use are meditation, pleasure, and medicine. And the medicine piece is relatively new. And so far, this is only happening on our retreats. But I know that as things start to become more legal, and I've been working with medicines for like 20 years. And so I just sort of like underground and undercover. But now I'm really reclaiming my priestess. Like this, like there is an ancient part of me that has been serving medicine for many thousands of years. And so Layla and I this summer, we went to Eleusis, Delphi, and Crete in Greece. And we did this priestess pilgrimage. And so Eleusis, not to go too deep down the rabbit hole, but I think it's a bit of history lesson that I think can inform how we can dance with these substances in a way that will evolve our civilization and not degrade it moving forward. So we went to Eleusis, which is a town about 45 minutes outside of Athens, which back in the day, for about 3,000 years, there was something known as the Eleusinian Mysteries. There was this festival that would happen in the fall, and thousands of people would come, and anyone could come, male, female, slaves, which was unusual at the time, to participate in sort of like these types of ceremonies if you were not a free person. The thing is, you could only go once. You could not speak about what happened in Eleusis. That's why they're called the Eleusinian Mysteries. If you spoke about it, it was punishable by death.
Wow.
And you went there to die before you die. And they would say, if you die before you die, then you can really live. And just to kind of put this in context, because Eleusis is about to be named the cultural capital of Europe. Which I'd never even heard of Eleusis until I started researching this. But it's had that much influence on Western civilization as we know it, because Euripides, Plato, Aristotle, like some of the people who birthed theater, democracy, like our legal system, our justice system, were being influenced by what was happening in Eleusis.
Wow.
Where these priestesses were serving medicine and doing rituals and doing fertility rituals. So it's basically, to put that in layman's terms, sex and drugs.
Yeah.
Okay. They're serving. And now
what type of medicine?
Well, so also shout out to Brian Marescu, who wrote The Immortality Key. He's dedicated 10 years of research to this, of like studying the library in the Vatican and the private papal library, to unearth the documentation of this and sort of like validate this, even in the very organization that's been shutting it all down,
Yeah, I
which
was
is
gonna say, I was like, wait, it's
yeah,
there? Okay.
yeah. So I mean, this is going to go a little bit down the rabbit hole, but
It's okay. We like to be there.
yeah. So they've found chalices, like a goblet in these ruins in Eleusis, and
Okay.
they now we have the technology to go into the molecular structure of them, and they know that they were serving ergot, which is the precursor to LSD. And also mushroom mixtures. So they
Okay.
were like types of wine, but there was like mycelium wine. So psychedelics, like full blown, like visceral experience of God.
Got it.
And just in case anyone's listening who's never had an experience of something like LSD or psilocybin, the thing, especially those of us raised in the 80s with like the DARE campaign and like, this is your brain on drugs, everything that we were conditioned to think that like, oh, these are bad for you, they're going to fry your brain. If you actually look at the brain scans of people on psilocybin or LSD, the whole brain lights up. There is more neurogenesis. There is more activity and electricity and blood flow in more parts of the brain, which is actually very similar to what a brain looks like on meditation, because you're increasing neuroplasticity. The energy and lead is going to more areas, which actually makes you more creative. I would also argue that in the right set and setting, psychedelics can give you a visceral experience of your own divinity, which, by the way, is the through line of why I work with meditation, pleasure, and medicine, is because all of them help you to experience your own creativity and power, which is I would call divinity. And they all teach you how to die before you die. Like in meditation, you are transcending your individuality and connecting to totality. Same can happen in a medicine ceremony. And think about pleasure. Like orgasm in French is called le petit mort, the little death. So in all of them, you are transcending your ego. You're transcending the idea that this little bag of skin is all that there is, and viscerally experiencing God.
Yes.
Not someone else telling you about God, right? Like talking about jazz is very different than playing jazz. Talking about dance is very different from actually dancing. And hearing someone else speak to you about God is very different from you
Yes.
experiencing yourself as God incarnate.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we went to Eleusis, we did medicine ceremonies. So we did psilocybin there, and basically like just to tune into what was happening here. And we were the only two people there, by the way. It was just me and Layla.
So this was a pilgrimage you did and led just the two of you.
Just she and I.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we 10 days in Greece and started in Eleusis. And this is going to sound like kind of silly, but I think it's actually quite profound. So we did this medicine, like mushroom journey, lay back. We're both in our own worlds for a while. After a few hours, I open my eyes. And the first thing I say, I open my eyes and it's so beautiful. I say, Layla, it's amazing with your eyes closed. And it's amazing with your eyes open, which is a very high thing to say. But in hindsight, what I was trying to communicate is that what if death is even better than life? And that's what I was experiencing. Like with my eyes closed, I was experiencing these fractals of beauty, these fractals of the human experience. And I also believe that whatever state of consciousness you're in when you transition into death, that it goes on. So if you commit suicide from a place of torture and depression and angst, and you're trying again to be in the I'll be happy when syndrome of let me escape this hell to be better on the other side, you're just in this purgatory of that continued state of consciousness.
Right.
Which that's why in Tibet, they practice dying. The Tibetan Book of the Dead. In China, they practice dying. In the Vedas, they practice dying, where you actually get your body into a highest state of consciousness possible. Practice letting that energy leave the body because it matters. Because some people would argue that you're in that state for eternity. Like whatever you leave this body in, whatever your state of consciousness is at the moment of transition really matters.
Wow. Wow.
And that was why you went to Eleusis, to die before you die, to practice dying so that you could really live. So then we went to Crete and Delphi. Delphi, like the oracles of Delphi, they were these, again, priestesses that were advising the kings, the generals. They were shaping society, shaping wars. And in Delphi specifically, it was really so potent and such a reclamation for me because there's an entire stadium there built around like these leaders coming to receive wisdom from the divine feminine. And it wasn't just the humans. It wasn't about the human. It was about their ability to tap into the goddess,
Right.
their ability to channel the divine feminine. And in Crete, it's one of the oldest matriarchs on the planet. I'm sorry, I don't know, I can't say oldest, but I can say actually maybe even one of the most recent and one of the most documented, which is pretty sad that like it's barely documented
Wow.
and no one even really knows about it. And just to reframe, because again, most of us who've been raised in patriarchy, which is all of us, can't even imagine what a matriarchy looks like. But matriarchy is
Not at
not
all.
reverse patriarchy. It's not, oh, the women are in power and the men can't have credit cards and can't vote and don't have rights.
Okay.
It's an equal representation of power, that everyone in society is represented equal. And we, invest in our children and invest in our elderly and invest in the planet and have more of a symbiotic relationship with the earth. And so again, this is not about like, yay, women, boo, men. Patriarchy is not serving anyone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like us all tuning into our divine feminine actually serves everyone. And, not to go down this road, but part of what kind of like the thread that we've touched on a little bit, but not actually spoken to, is that a lot of the like doctrines and dogmas that have shaped so much of our current civilization and have really propelled patriarchy into what it is, has removed the divine feminine from the stories. Like actually the stories of Mary Magdalene, which is the feminine embodiment of Christ consciousness, those pages were ripped out of the books. They were etched, they were etched off of the tablets. That the divine feminine has been removed. And I would argue that a half-truth is a lie. And if our myths and our mythologies have only been speaking a half-truth, then that is in fact a lie. And so it is time for a reintegration. It is time for a reclamation inside of all genders to find that receptivity, to find that fluidity, to find that reclamation of the symbiosis with us and nature. And so to go to your original question here of how do we dance with medicines in a way that is respectful of them, that is going to help us as a species, I think that there has to be some of these feminine elements in play, which is a reverence for the medicine, an honoring of the medicine, a surrender to how would you like to use me, which is different than like, oh, I'm feeling kind of nervous at this party. I'm going to take some ketamine so that I don't feel my social anxiety. It's different than I'm going to go do ayahuasca every single weekend because I don't want to talk to my mom and tell her what's actually going on in my life. It's different than I'm going to just do MDMA all of the time and then deplete my neurotransmitters and be willing to suffer in the other day. So it's like the devil really is in the dose. And I think that, every therapist, every psychedelic facilitator will tell you this, is that intention is everything.
Yeah.
And setting is everything. So we actually facilitate like ketamine assisted sound ceremonies on our retreats. And we just did one last week in Costa Rica.
Beautiful.
And it was wild, like wild. And I don't know where I got the audacity, but like I don't know if it's dumb, naive, ignorance, or like some audacious bravery, but I am taking people from zero, like no experience with sacred sexuality, no experience with psychedelics, to like, I'm not going to say 100, but we are going far. Like people are dancing with the divine. They're like, I found myself. It's
But don't
wild.
you think because they found you, said yes to the retreat, there's a part of them that is just so ready?
Yes, they are ready. And I think
But it's so interesting that you find them at that kind of, I'll say elementary state, but that's not what I mean. You know what I mean?
it's like a curiosity state.
But it's so interesting that their soul is like, let's go, I'm ready.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
it's
what
so
a gift.
beautiful.
And like what a gift to doula that. Like I love dueling people, and I think being a bridge is one of my gifts of like taking people who are just curious or maybe a little skeptical and speaking to the science, speaking to the practical applications of how is this actually going to make my life better? How is this going to make heaven on earth for me?
Yeah.
And so it's never about, it's like what will be on my tombstone is that we meditate to get good at life, not to get good at meditation. I would say the same is true of medicine. The same is true of pleasure. Right? Like if you're doing the medicine to escape, you're just creating more hell. If it's a porn addiction and you're using pleasure to escape the feelings, you're just going to create more hell. And you could even do that with meditation.
Sure.
Right? That I'm just going to go to another retreat, another retreat, another retreat. But if instead the intention is, let me use these modalities to integrate into being more alive, more present, feeling my feelings more, giving more to my family and my communities, like that's how we start to really make the magic.
Yeah, where the experiences or the modalities don't become the thing.
Right.
They become kind of the vehicle through which you're able to experience more of
Yes.
your life and your joy.
Like you can see in culture, and like, not that I go out all that much anymore, but like, it's like you'll go to a party and people are talking about the next time they're going to take ketamine, and they do ketamine. And then while they're on ketamine, they just talk about like ketamine. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, this is
Totally.
not it. Like,
Not it.
if you want to do it, sure, great. I've done it recreationally. I think it's fun. But then like, are you talking to someone about something else? Are you engaging in
Yes.
intimacy? Are you having fun? Are you playing?
Being
Are you
more
creating
intentional.
something? Like if it's about the substance, like that's not it.
Right.
Right? Like ayahuasca is tuning into like a fractal of intelligence that that is the planet, right? Like it's the
Yeah.
plants speaking to us, and the plants are like representative of Gaia,
Yes.
which is the spirit of the earth. And so the idea here is that meditation, pleasure, medicine, they just want to be the channel, not the source. They want to help you to
Yeah.
create those neurotransmitters to reconnect to source. But once those are there, you don't really need the modalities anymore. You know, like people have been meditating for 40 years. They don't have to close their eyes to be into a meditative state. They've already
Yes.
integrated that state of consciousness. That neuroplasticity is with them. Same with people. I mean, like shamans don't need to do the medicine to commune with the plants anymore. That relationship is there. Same with pleasure. Like Regina doesn't have to go to her room and go into a pleasure practice to be vibrating at the frequency of pleasure. She just is that now.
Yes.
And so it's not confusing the channel for the source.
I love that clarification, because I do think that it can kind of go awry when we're talking about plant medicine and engaging in those modalities where it can become the crutch on which we're leaning on, and we kind of lose the
Yep.
plot.
And if we go into it with the same mentality that we have religion and that we have capitalism of like, it's I'll be happy when.
Yes.
I need more medicine,
Yes,
more
yes,
ceremonies,
yes.
more because I need to get somewhere. I have somewhere to go. I have something to fix. I'm going to be happy on the other side of this next thing. And the only reason why I think that but I'm still an advocate of it, even though like I know we're not going to change the collective consciousness before we go into the ceremonies. I do believe in the collective intelligence of the plants. I do believe in the collective intelligence of nature to help to teach us and to give us that transmission. And it will require us leaning on the indigenous wisdom, elders, doctors, facilitators, like people who have been through the phases, you know, like there's a book called More Than Two, and it's a book on polyamory. And their analogy that in the first chapter, it's like, hey, if you're going to go foraging for mushrooms in the woods, there are mushrooms that taste like steak, and some that will kill you, and some that can help you see God. There are people who've been foraging in the woods for a long time, and they can tell you which mushroom does what. Same is true of polyamory. Like you could blow up your relationship, you could find God in your relationship, or you could kill each other.
Yes.
Why don't you rely on the wisdom of the elders who've been doing this for a long time and help them guide you on your journey? And so I think same is true here with medicine. Like we really need to be tapping into the very few indigenous populations that Christianity and Catholicism have not wiped out, that have been dancing with these medicines for so many generations and passing down the reverence, the respect, the ceremony from generation to generation, as things are starting to like be propagated into Western culture as we are in the middle of this psychedelic revolution.
That sounds like a through line in your new work in the last 3 years, where it's kind of bringing in more wisdom, whether it's from the elders, from ancient texts, etc., in a time when, I'm scrolling social media and I'm seeing 22-year-old life coaches, and I'm just kind of seeing this lack of elder wisdom in general. And maybe it's not in my algorithm right now, but I don't know if they're really online and I respect it. But I think that's a really beautiful part of your work, and I'm thankful for it because, there's something to that when I've been able to receive, witness, or connect with wisdom from an elder or with an elder, I feel like I'm meeting a part of myself that I haven't met in a long time and or ever. So that's always been really interesting to me, where I'm like, why does this feel so good? Why does this feel like home? Why does this feel activating in a really positive way and in a yummy way where I'm like, ooh, I want more of that.
Yeah, like for the same reason that like looking at a People magazine that's criticizing someone's cellulite in a bathing
Yes.
suit feels awful.
Awful.
Or like looking at like everyone talking about like Madonna's plastic surgery just feels like not it.
Who cares?
It's like we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
Like we are all like from the moment the sperm hits the egg, we are hurtling towards the grave. And we are swimming in a culture and a society and in a social media campaign that is desperately trying to make us hold on to our youth. And like like celebrating youthfulness above all else.
Yeah.
And I actually have a chapter in my book called the legit fountain of youth. And I immediately qualify it in the first few sentences of the chapter where I'm like, I can give a shit about chasing youth. This is not about chasing youth. This is about chasing health. We've just conflated the two in our society. And when we see a healthy person in their 40s, you're like, oh my God, you look so young. You see a healthy person in their 60s, oh my gosh, you look so young. And it's like, no, I want to look like I'm 60 when I'm 60. And I look like a hot, vibrant, lit up in my body, powerful 60-year-old, not like I'm trying to look like I'm 20. And there's just such a difference there. Like, can we chase health versus chasing youth and stop conflating the two? And not to get me on a soapbox, but the same is true in reverse of maternal age and maternal health. And I think that's why we have so much fucked up stats on fertility, is that a lot of people's health declines as they age, but many people's does not. And so if your health is increasing until you are in menopause, then your fertility does not have to decline. And I am living proof of that. I got pregnant by accident at 39. I have the fertility markers of a 21-year-old at 45 years old. Like I am, and I'm not like, but that's just a result of my lifestyle. You know, that is just because I have been following the Vedas and following this ancient wisdom and trying to live as in tune with nature as I can while living in Brooklyn, New York.
I know. Let's talk about it. Actually, I would love to talk about this to round out our combo.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I've just been thinking about this.
Can I say one more thing about the elders?
Yes.
Is I know I mentioned Bob Thurman, and he's, I think in his 80s, I have to fact check that, but he is so sharp, so intelligent, so kind, so quick-witted, such a font of knowledge that hearing him speak, I was like, this is the best advertisement for biohacking that I have ever seen. He is a living example for longevity. I don't even know what his tools or techniques are, but I think the reason why so many of us don't respect our elders and why we don't practice the level of respect and worship of our elders as we should in our society is because, unfortunately, the American lifestyle is degrading the consciousness to where people are like rotting in recliners watching Fox News.
Yep.
And so because we're on pharmaceuticals and we're eating food that isn't food and we're not in sunlight and our soil is depleted. So the loss of that, besides just the pharmaceutical bills, besides the loss of vitality and health and sickness, the real loss, in my opinion, is the loss of wisdom.
Yeah.
And we don't really understand that cost because many of us have not seen someone in their 80s, someone with a lifetime of knowledge of studying ancient wisdom in their prime. And so when you see that, you're like, oh my gosh, what have we done? What have we done? What are we doing? And so I would love to infuse this into the longevity and biohacking conversation of like, this is actually why we need to be biohacking. This is why we need to be taking magnesium, getting sunshine and getting light and having sex and making our soil nutritious so that we can be the wisdom keepers to pass on to the next generation, not so we can look like we're 25.
Oh, profound. This is very much hitting me right now. Yeah, I'm 36 and I think maybe it's having a child. I don't really know, but I'm looking at myself differently and I'm looking at what I was doing in my 20s, late 20s, early 30s to preserve my youth, whether it's Botox and the like. And I'm like, dude, what are we doing? You know, what are we forgetting about who we really are in those moments and I think I'm selling I feel like I was selling myself short in terms of my ability to cultivate aliveness and how that affects our health, our body, what you're
ability to
seeing visually
express.
and what you're feeling energetically, your ability to express. And I'm trying not to be on a soapbox now, but I think internally I'm just kind of allowing myself to like give myself these little talks about we don't need a quick fix anymore. Like, how are we going to live our life in a way that celebrates and honors and really embodies the aliveness that we feel? And that feels, if you want to call it youthfulness, fine, but it is that aliveness.
It's radiance,
And people
aliveness,
feel that.
vitality.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah. I wish that was kind of the beauty standard conversation that we're talking about. And I think it's shifting a little bit.
I think so too.
Slightly.
I mean, I'm certainly in an echo chamber, but I think it is shifting. But even if you were to like approach your morning routine from like, what are you optimizing for? Are you optimizing for looking young? Are you optimizing for feeling and looking healthy? Am I optimizing for holding on to something that is gone? Or am I investing in my future?
Right.
Like, I want to be able to play with my grandkids. Like, I want to be a wisdom keeper for the next generations. Like, I've been studying deeply the most profound, rich knowledge I've ever come across for 16 years already. When I'm 60, 70, 80, like, what am I going to have to give?
Yeah.
And so I want to preserve this vessel that has had the outrageous good fortune of being able to receive so much ancient wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah. I just love that reframe. Thank you. This has been amazing. I appreciate you so much. You are just, you're a profound teacher of our time. And I'm super thankful that we're here at the same time. She has a podcast. She has a book. It's like a lot. And also it all makes sense and works together. So tell us where we can find you, what's happening right now that people can engage with.
Yeah, I'd say the podcast, like especially everything we've just talked about, like the pleasure, the medicine, the modalities, like this is what the show is all about. The show's called Why Isn't Everyone Doing This?
Love it.
And it's truly how I live my life. Like if I find something that is good, I'm like, like why isn't everyone doing this? And it's really picking up steam and picking up an amazing life of its own, which is thrilling. Because, you invest so much in something and you're like, oh, great. Like 2 people watched it. But like now it's picking up.
Yes.
So I'd say, why isn't everyone doing this? It's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. And then everything else can be found at zivameditation.com. So Ziva's a Sanskrit word, but it's Z-I-V-A meditation.com. And Ziva Online, which is our flagship offering, The Sacred Secret, the Embodied Manifesting, like all the things that we're birthing can be found there. And we're on social media at Ziva Meditation.
Beautiful. And you have retreats on the regular.
I do. I love it. Like I am in my happy spot on retreats. So we are looking at where and when our next one will be, but zivameditation.com/secret. Well, you can get on the waiting list. You can be in the know. And we're actually about to shoot like a digital course for this, which is like, this is my sweet spot. Like I made the world's first online meditation training a million years ago. Wow. And so I've been in the online course game for 13, 14 years. And so like when I haven't done a course in 5 years, so I'm like, ready. I can like feel it. Like totally. She's like get ready because this course is going to be good.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We love you.
I love you. Thank you for having me. You're just one of the best interviewers. So heart open, so smart, so prepared, sweet. But like a beautiful balance of intellect and heart. And it's really an honor to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, y'all. We'll see you next time. Love you.
Thank you so much, Emily. Again, that's Emily Fletcher of Ziva Meditation. We have another episode with her if you want to find that in our show notes. We're so grateful you're part of our lives and community. We cannot wait to share the book with you next year. It's going to mean so much to us, and we're hopeful that it's just everything you want and more.
Yeah, we love you guys. Make sure to check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Almost 30 Podcast. We will see you on the next episode.
We'll see you soon.
Later.
Bye.